So this video is about wrestling the practice, no practice paradox. So I recently made a video about practice is everything. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. I can do it now. But the interesting thing is in radical non-duality, there's a lot of talk about not needing to practice. And I think on one side, of course, that's correct because nothing is needed. You're already that. That is definitely true. But if you're already suffering, or you're still suffering, shouting at your wife, shouting at your boss, it's hurting when your boss shouts at you, you're people pleasing, you're suffering in any way, then maybe the idea of just doing nothing with that and just going on about your business is not per se a good idea. Just as in the practice sphere, if you're just practicing, but you're doing that from a very mind-oriented way, mind-identified way, needing to practice this much, being in this structure, doing it in this way, very intense, and needing only practice, then that's also probably not really going to help. So first of all, like I said, you need nothing, right? Because life already is. But when you want to cleanse up your suffering, you could say, then unless there's already this huge force active within you that is looking at all this conditioning, which is a practice on its own, you could say, then there's need for something to look at suffering and to work with suffering. And most of our suffering comes from being mind identified. So both saying no practice is needed and practice is very much needed is both being mind identified. So to me, practice is something where you're not being mind identified, where you're actually free from your ideas of mind. So how I used to practice meditation and still do is you sit and do nothing. You just be with what is. You allow this space to unfold. And then when something comes up, which feels sticky, yucky, whatever, mind identified, or feels energetically draining, or any suffering comes up, I focus on that and I be with that and trying to work with that, release it, gauge it, etc. So I wouldn't say that you need practice, but I also wouldn't say that you don't need practice, because for me, practice is, again, this not being mind identified. And any stance is mind identification. Any hard stance is being mind identified. And I work with people individually, and what I tell them is very different, because some people need something else, let's say. Some people need to be really practicing and really having a tight approach to this, and other people need to let go of everything. And so it really depends also, what is your inclination? How is life trying to wake you up? Which practices are you attracted to, right? I wouldn't say that you need to practice a certain amount of time or do a certain technique, because there are many roads to Rome, you could say. So there's not one thing that you need at all. But even keeping this mind idea of non-duality top of mind can wake you up. But to me, that's a practice. So this whole idea of spiritual practice with what is a being this, is a freedom. And creating freedom from the mind, for most people that are learning in this path to acquaint themselves with not being mind identified, it's nice to have a practice where they are practicing not to be mind identified, like meditation, like surrender, like inquiry, walking around being relaxed, thinking about non-duality or non-duality constructs. Non-duality itself is the widest construct you can take, but even in deeper realization, we need to let go of not only practice, but also non-duality and spirituality itself. So in the end, no construct can stay alive in the flame of consciousness. because it's all gonna go. It's all an idea anyway. The idea is to let go of holding on to any idea. And while you're doing that, it's good to have something of a practice to look at your ideas. Something of a thing where you're not being mind identified during the day or not being mind oriented, to look at the mind, what it's trying to do, what it's trying to force you to do, how it's trying to create suffering. So I hope that helps. And if not, let me know in the comments. And if you have any questions for me, let me know. And if you're interested in having a free coaching call with me or working with me, just schedule a call below and I'd love to have a chat with you. Whatever you like. Much love. Bye.